Okay, so picture this. It's Christmas Eve, right? The fire's going, and instead of, running around like crazy for last-minute gifts, you're curled up thinking about the meaning of it all. Christmas, I mean, with Ray Dalio.
With Ray Dalio.
Yeah, Dalio. Intrigued. I think you should be.
Yeah.
We're going to do a deep dive into his recent article where he is reflecting on Christmas and spirituality.
Yeah.
Now, before anyone thinks that we have, totally switched gears here, Dalio is not a theologian.
Right.
But he is someone who thinks really deeply about things.
Yeah.
And, he's a wildly successful investor.
Yeah.
So his perspective on this is pretty unique.
I think what's so interesting about Dalio is that he's really just exploring and reflecting on the wisdom that he's kind of picked up along the way, whether that's from, ancient texts or his own life.
Right.
He's not trying to preach or anything.
He's not standing on a soapbox.
No, not at all. He's just kind of thinking out loud.
Yeah.
And he starts by really looking at the core messages of Christ and how they actually resonate far beyond just, religion.
Yeah. It's almost like he's looking for those universal truths.
Exactly.
That apply to everyone.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he seems to really grab onto is that idea of the golden rule.
Oh, absolutely. The do unto others.
Yes, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yeah.
And Dalio sees that as more than just a nice saying.
Oh, yeah.
He really believes that it has these huge implications, practically speaking and even spiritually.
Absolutely. He actually takes it a step further.
Okay.
And connects the golden rule to this concept of karma.
Karma.
Yeah, which, he suggests is not just some kind of mystical Eastern thing,
Right.
but a fundamental law of the universe, like a cosmic cause and effect.
Okay.
What you put out comes back to you.
Right.
And it shapes not only our individual lives, but the entire fabric of society.
So do you see any evidence of this, playing out in the world today?
Well, think about it. We've all seen how kindness can just ripple outwards, creating a much more positive atmosphere.
Right.
But then, on the flip side, when you have that selfishness and greed, it just seems to breed more of the same.
Yeah.
Leading to, conflict, distrust, all that stuff.
Right. It makes you wonder if we're sort of drifting away from that sense of spirituality as a society.
Well, Dalio seems to be particularly concerned about that.
Yeah.
He sees this growing emphasis on self-interest.
Yeah.
And a really worrying decline in empathy.
Okay.
And he even points to a very specific example, which is pretty stark.
Okay.
The public reaction to the murder of an insurance executive.
Oh, wow.
And what really struck him was this lack of empathy for the victim.
Wow.
And even, widespread support for the person who committed the murder.
That's disturbing.
It's very disturbing. And he saw this as a symptom of a much deeper shift.
Okay.
This move away from compassion toward a more, what he called a barbaric mindset.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit unsettling. It makes you think about how easy it is to get caught up in, outrage or wanting revenge.
Absolutely.
And you kind of lose sight of the human element.
You forget the people involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dalio, he connects us to some of those bigger picture issues.
He does.
Things like the polarization we're seeing everywhere and that erosion of trust.
Absolutely. He argues that this decline in spirituality, this shift away from that sense of connection and shared values,
Right.
it has real consequences.
Okay.
It weakens the bonds that hold us together
Yeah.
and creates this breeding ground for conflict and instability.
And ultimately suffering.
Exactly. So it begs the question, what's the antidote?
Right. What can we do to course correct here?
Well, Dalio actually points to something pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And that is forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Yeah. He believes that embracing forgiveness, both personally and as a society,
Right.
is essential for breaking free from these cycles of anger and resentment and revenge.
Wow.
It's crucial for growth healing.
It's a powerful idea.
It is. And there's actually a lot of research to back it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Studies have shown that forgiveness can reduce stress,
Okay.
improve both mental and physical health, and even strengthen relationships.
So it's not just some fluffy feel-good concept.
No, not at all. It's about letting go of those negative emotions that weigh us down,
Yeah.
choosing to move forward.
Okay.
And it's not about condoning harmful actions,
Right.
but about freeing ourselves from being stuck in the past.
Yeah. It sounds simple in theory,
It does?
but in practice, I imagine it can be really hard.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when we've been deeply hurt,
Yeah. And Dalio even acknowledges that figuring out this whole forgiveness thing,
Yeah.
it can be tricky, especially when you're trying to reconcile religious doctrine with how humans actually behave.
Right. Because religion, with all its rules and interpretations, can be a double-edged sword.
A double-edged sword. How so?
Well, on the one hand, it can inspire these incredible acts of compassion.
Selflessness, social justice.
Right.
But then on the other hand,
Yeah.
we've seen throughout history how religious beliefs can be twisted
Oh, yeah.
to justify violence, oppression, even genocide.
That's a dark side.
It is. And Dalio actually brings up a very chilling quote
Right.
from Montesquieu,
Yep.
who said, "There is no kingdom driven to greater bloodshed than that of Christ."
Wow. That's a powerful statement.
It is. It's a stark reminder that even the most noble ideals can be corrupted
Yeah.
and misused.
And this seems to be something that Dalio really grapples with.
He does this tension
Yeah.
between the high aspirations of religion
Right.
and the often messy reality of how people act.
Yeah.
And he advocates for a much more personal approach to spirituality,
Oh.
one that goes beyond just blindly following rules and doctrines.
So he's saying we need to engage with these ideas
Yes.
critically and find what speaks to us on a deeper level
Exactly.
rather than just accepting things at face value.
Yeah, he's encouraging us to develop our own principles
Oh.
based on careful reflection, a deep understanding of our values,
Right.
and a willingness to question even our most cherished beliefs.
So it's not about abandoning religion altogether,
No.
but approaching it with, a critical eye.
A discerning mind. A healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah. He's saying, don't just take my word for it.
Right.
Go explore for yourself. Figure out what rings true for you.
Precisely. He's inviting us on this journey of spiritual exploration, using his reflections as a starting point,
Okay.
a springboard for deeper inquiry.
I like that.
And a key part of that journey is cultivating this sense of connection.
Connection
Yeah, he defines spirituality as connectivity and harmony with all things.
with all things.
Yeah, emphasizing how interconnected we all are
Wow.
and the profound implications that has for how we live our lives.
So it's more than just, human relationship.
It is. It's about recognizing that we're not isolated individuals,
Right.
but part of this vast web of life.
Yeah.
And our actions have these ripple effects that go way beyond ourselves.
That's a pretty humbling thought.
It is.
It really makes you realize that every choice we make,
Yeah.
every action we take,
Uh-huh.
it has the potential to impact the world around us,
Absolutely.
for better or for worse.
It really does. Yeah, it really makes you think, what kind of world are we actually creating here? Are we contributing to a more connected, compassionate society? Or are we just drifting further and further apart?
It's interesting you say that because Dalio uses this really thought-provoking example to kind of drive this point home.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he talks about the public reaction to the murder of an insurance executive.
Okay.
And what really struck him wasn't just the lack of empathy for the victim,
Right.
but the widespread support for the person who did it.
Wow. You found that deeply disturbing.
Yeah.
It's like society is losing its moral compass, becoming totally desensitized to violence, embracing this, might makes right kind of mentality.
It's like those basic principles that hold everything together. They're just eroding.
Exactly.
It's a pretty stark example, and it raises some pretty uncomfortable questions about where we're headed.
Yeah.
If we're losing our capacity for empathy, what does that even mean for the future?
Well, Dahlia seems to think that this decline in empathy and connection, it goes hand in hand with a decline in spirituality.
Spirituality.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily about organized religion or anything.
Okay.
But it's about having this sense of shared values,
Right.
recognizing that there's something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
And being willing to act in accordance with those principles.
So he's not saying everyone needs to, become super religious.
No, not at all.
But it's more about rediscovering those core values
Exactly.
that make a society more compassionate, more just.
What's it?
When we were talking about forgiveness before,
Yeah.
it really struck me how difficult it can be to truly let go of anger and resentment,
It is tough.
especially when you've been really wronged by someone.
Yeah.
But Dalio seems to think that forgiveness isn't just possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely crucial.
He does for both personal and societal healing.
Exactly.
He sees it as this antidote to the anger and the bitterness and that desire for revenge that can just poison us from the inside out and tear communities apart.
Yeah.
And it's not about saying that what happened was okay.
Right.
It's about breaking free from that cycle of pain and retribution.
He even goes so far as to say that forgiveness is essential for growth.
It is.
It's like by holding on to that anger
Yeah.
and resentment,
Yeah.
you're actually stopping yourself from moving forward,
Yeah.
from learning from your mistakes,
Right.
from becoming a better person.
There's a really beautiful analogy for this in nature.
Oh, really?
Have you ever thought about a forest fire? I mean, it's incredibly destructive, right?
Yeah.
But it also clears the way for new growth.
Mm.
Forgiveness is kind of like that.
Right.
It lets you let go of that scorched earth of the past and create space for something new and beautiful to come through.
That's a really powerful image.
It is.
I have to admit, though, I'm still trying to wrap my head around how to actually apply this in real life.
I get that.
Especially in situations that feel impossible to forgive.
It's definitely not easy.
Dalio does say that forgiveness can be incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with all those complexities of religious doctrine and
Exactly.
interpretation.
And, he even cautions against how religion itself can be misused
Oh, yeah.
to justify actions that go totally against those principles of love and compassion.
Right. Like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
With that Montesquieu quote.
Exactly. He
Yeah.
brings that up again.
Right. And it just reminds us that even the best of intentions can be, distorted,
Yeah.
used to justify terrible things.
It highlights how important it is to approach religion and really any belief system
Yeah.
with a critical and discerning mind.
Mhm.
You can't just blindly accept things without questioning them and thinking about the potential consequences.
So it's about finding that balance
Yeah,
between faith and reason,
I think so.
tradition and critical thinking.
Exactly. Dalio seems to be advocating for this more personal and nuanced approach to spirituality.
Yeah.
One that goes beyond just blindly following the rules.
Right.
And encourages you to really engage with these ideas, think about them deeply,
Yeah.
draw wisdom from different sources, and ultimately come to your own conclusions.
So true spirituality isn't about adhering to a rigid set of doctrines,
No.
but it's about cultivating this deeper sense of connection and compassion
Yeah.
and understanding.
Within ourselves and with others.
And he says this sense of connection goes even beyond human relationships.
It does. He talks about connectivity and harmony with all things.
All things.
The natural world,
Wow.
the universe, even something greater than ourselves.
It's about recognizing that we're part of this much larger picture.
Exactly.
And we often realize.
Right.
And that can be kind of humbling.
It can, and inspiring too.
Yeah.
It can shift your whole perspective,
Okay.
make you less focused on yourself
Yeah.
and more aware of how your actions affect everything around you.
Like you're seeing the world through this wider lens,
Yeah.
recognizing all these connections.
Absolutely.
When you put it like that, it makes Dalio's focus on forgiveness even more powerful.
It does, doesn't it?
If everything really is interconnected,
Yeah.
then harming someone else ultimately harms yourself.
It's true.
And forgiveness becomes more than just an act of kindness.
It does.
It's a recognition of our shared humanity,
Yeah.
our shared fate.
It's a powerful concept.
It is.
It suggests that forgiveness isn't just a personal thing.
Yeah.
It's a social necessity.
Wow.
It's a key ingredient to creating a more just and compassionate world.
It's like he's saying that forgiveness isn't a weakness,
No?
it's a strength.
It is.
It's this force that can heal wounds, bridge divides, and move us toward a better future.
And Dalio's vision of the future
Yeah.
is one where we prioritize connection over division, empathy over apathy, cooperation over conflict.
Sounds pretty good to me.
It's definitely a future worth striving for.
It's really interesting how Dalio, someone so entrenched in, the world of finance, brings this whole idea of like interconnectedness and spirituality into the conversation.
It's true. He's not your typical Wall Street guy.
No, not at all. It kind of challenges our whole definition of success, doesn't it?
Absolutely. He seems to be saying that real success isn't just about money or status.
Right.
It's about aligning yourself with something bigger, something with more meaning.
It's like recognizing that you're not separate from everything else.
Exactly. That your well-being is tied to everyone else's.
And to the planets, too.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. It's like he's saying we can't truly thrive if we're just out for ourselves.
Right.
Our happiness depends on creating a world where everyone has the chance to flourish.
He makes a really powerful comparison to the life of Christ.
He does.
Who, even though he was born into poverty,
Yep.
lived a life that prioritized compassion and humility and service to others.
It's a pretty radical idea.
It is. Especially compared to how we usually think about power and success.
Absolutely. It makes you question that whole obsession with wealth and status.
Yeah.
Like that constant need for more, more, more.
Exactly. Dalio seems to be implying that real power comes from something different.
Okay.
What is it then?
It's that ability to connect, to empathize,
Yeah.
to contribute to something beyond yourself.
And he sees real strength.
Yeah.
Not in aggression or selfishness,
Well.
but in, being vulnerable, being kind,
Mm-hmm.
forgiving others, even when it's hard.
Exactly.
Thinking back to, Dalio's thoughts on Christmas,
Yeah.
it's striking how much his ideas line up with the spirit of the holiday.
At least the true spirit.
Yeah, like at its core, it's about celebrating love and generosity and compassion.
Right. And recognizing the worth of every single person.
That message can get kind of lost in all the, commercialism and chaos.
It definitely does.
But it's worth remembering. And Dalio gives us some good ideas for how to bring that spirit into our lives.
Yeah, not just at Christmas, but all year round.
It starts with being aware.
Of our interconnectedness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Knowing that we're part of something bigger.
Shifting our focus from me to we.
I like that.
From competition to collaboration.
Yeah.
From getting more to giving more.
And of course, remembering the power of forgiveness.
To heal those wounds and bring people together.
To create a better world.
Exactly. As we wrap up our deep dive into Dalio's thoughts,
Yep.
I think that the key takeaway is this. We all have the ability to create a more meaningful life.
For ourselves and others.
Exactly. It starts with those qualities of connection and compassion and forgiveness.
Like Dalio talks about.
It's about embracing a wider view of success.
One that puts well-being and contribution first.
Creating a world where everyone can thrive.
And that journey starts with each of us.
With the choices we make every day.
Yeah.
How we treat each other.
The values we live by.
Dalio leaves us with this invitation to reflect on these things, to see what resonates with us,
Yeah.
and to find our own paths to a more meaningful and connected life.
He reminds us that, spiritual exploration,
Yeah.
it's an ongoing process.
It is.
It takes reflection and questioning and being open to new perspectives. So as we close out this deep dive,
Yeah.
we encourage you to keep the conversation going.
Explore these ideas further.
See what speaks to you.
What sparks your curiosity?
What insights will you take with you?
This is just the beginning.